is not an entry-level motorcycle. This is an entry-level race bike. Cue the intro. What's up guys, I'm Sean from Srkcycles. We have a 2017 Yamaha R3. And just to kind of dive into the R3, what I'm really feeling about these bikes is not as much entry-level bikes for brand new riders, although it is great for that. It's also entry-level for actually doing track days and for getting into racing and really diving into just becoming a really good rider. So I would definitely recommend if you're a new rider and you're looking, or even if you've been riding for a while, you're looking to start doing track days, maybe instead of getting a 600, most likely better than getting a 1000, consider getting something like this. You know, the Yamaha R3 or the KTM 390 or you know, the Honda CBR 300, something like that, because these are really turning into just full-blown race bike, and it's just a smaller engine. The whole bike's not smaller. If you look at, I'm 6'2", I fit pretty great on this bike. You know, it is a smaller tank, and the features are a little bit smaller, but they really are awesome bikes. This thing's weighing in at about 360 pounds, 60 pounds lighter than your 600 sport bike. And is rocking a parallel twin motor that instead of, you know, both at the same time, they're moving like this with a 180-degree crankshaft. Putting at about 42 horsepower to the crank. It's actually a pretty decently quick little, you know, entry-level bike. When it comes to cool gizmos and gadgets, you pretty much just have ABS. Not all models have ABS. This one does have ABS. And like most of these entry-level bikes, this one was dropped and it didn't really do any much damage. A little scratch right there. The paint kind of came off right here, and then you got some scratches back here on the exhaust. But let's be honest, you were gonna drop it anyway. And it's cheaper because of it. So I really do like these bikes. They are simple, they're fun, and on the used market, they are just incredibly cheap. I know brand new, this one was like $5,300. The white paint color was an extra $300. But when they're selling used, probably less than $3,000. It really is a killer value for such a new bike. And they're cheap to maintain. Tires are cheap, gas is cheap. They don't take, they're sipping fuel. It is a 6-speed. This thing will top out at about 110 miles an hour. It does have a cool little shift light on there. And I read a stat that said 0 to 37 miles per hour in 3 seconds. And I'm like, why are they telling me that? Like, I don't care how fast you can do 37 miles per hour. Give me the 0 to 60. I think they wanted to give you some number that was under 3 seconds, so you felt like, I don't know what the deal with that is. Let's take it for a spin. Alright guys, before we do the test drive, let's do the words of wisdom. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love and discipline. Sometimes I really gotta remind myself of that. Not that I'm a very timid person, but I just put on my M1 Moto gloves, and let's see what this bike can do. 638 miles, barely even broken in. The more experience I get riding, the better I get, the more training I get, the more I'm able to enjoy bikes that aren't super crazy fast. Now that might seem, you would think that like, oh, the better you get, the more you just want to ride faster and faster and faster stuff. Well, that's a different thing going on, because it really doesn't take skill to just go faster on a bike. It just takes, you know, you twisting your throttle and having a faster bike, and then maybe a little bit of clutch control. It's why guys who are running like Formula 1, what are they doing when they're not riding Formula 1? They're racing go-karts. Why are they racing go-karts? Because it's the exact same skills, and they can sharpen those skills in a different, kind of a different thing with, you know, a little less danger. And now I would say that the Yamaha might be one of the, I mean, it's getting a pretty competitive category. These small bikes, and Yamaha was definitely one of the later ones into it. I mean, Suzuki was making the Ninja, no, Kawasaki was making the Ninja forever, since the 80s, and nobody did anything about it. Now, I think Honda came out with their 250, but they didn't release them in America for a while. And then, what's crazy is the Kawasaki Ninja 250 was Kawasaki's best-selling motorcycle, from what I've heard. Why no one else decided to get into that category, I don't know. And because no one else decided to get into that category, they kept the same bike for 20 years, from like 80s to like 2007. The exact same, dare I say, it just didn't change. I was gonna say it's ugly, but some people really like it. It didn't change, it didn't evolve with the other, how sport bikes were evolving at the time. So it look, if you put it up next to the other 80s bikes, you know, an 80s, you know, bigger Kawasaki Ninja, okay, it looked awesome. It looked like a little smaller Ninja. If you put it up to the 90s, it's getting a little dated. If you put it up to the early 2000s, it's like, man, this thing's really dated. It went to the late mid-2000s. So then Yamaha gets in the game, and I think they did a really good job. I think this bike is great. It is smooth. And like I was saying before, this is a race bike. Now let's go with some of the differences. It's gonna have skinnier tires, that's fine. It doesn't make, you can still drag knee, and it's gonna make it feel a little more nimble. Tank might be a little bit smaller. It's gonna be lighter than the other bikes. It's got a smaller engine. But when it comes to performance, most of the performance that the biggest difference is the engine and the suspension. And maybe a little bit on the brakes, but the brakes are not as good, but they're also, they're not moving, they're not braking as much. And if you want to really modify the brakes, do what everyone else does and put steel braided brake lines on it. Steel braided brake lines is one of the greatest modifications you can do on a bike. The second would probably be the suspension. And very last, at the very end, although everyone makes it number one, would be a loud exhaust. Imagine, I mean, all right, here's the story, here's a scenario. You and your buddies are all riding 600. Your one buddy gets a 300. You all make fun of him. You laugh at him, you're all like, well, if he could keep up, and then you nudge him with your elbow, and then you punch him in the shoulder, you know what I mean? And it's all kind of a joke because his bike is slower in a straight line than your bike. While you guys are goofing around having fun, he's actually getting good. He's riding with faster guys, so he's got to tone his skill. He's got to hone his abilities to keep up with you. Until that one day that everyone else realizes, holy cow, he's right behind us. How is he keeping up with a significantly slower bike? And then you start thinking, I'm pushing hard. How is he keeping up with a slower bike? And you realize this guy's getting better. And now you're scared. Now you're scared. Now who's making fun of who? You know what I mean? Hey man, I kept up with you. My bike's 40 horsepower. Your bike is how many? 120? And that's where it all starts. We're gonna do 0 to 60. Now I read in a magazine that this thing had a 0 to 30 in 3.7 seconds. That sounds weak sauce. I think I could beat that. So we're gonna compare the 0 to 30, which is, why would you ever do that? And then we're gonna do 0 to 60. Now the key to getting a good 0 to 60, 0 to 30 on a bike like this, she's got to dump it at the high RPMs. There. Yeah, all right. This thing said 0 to 30 in 3.7 seconds. I was there in like less than 2, and I could have done a better job. No joke, I could have done a significantly better job. All right, this thing cruises. I mean, this thing feels great going speed. Not buzzy at all. I feel like if I want to go faster, if I want to pass somebody, roll on the thing. Now why is that flashing oil? Is it telling me I need to change my oil because if it's so new? Probably. So I'm cruising, I'm at six speed. I'm nowhere close. I'm at 7,000 RPMs. The red line's at 12.5 or closer to 13. So I'm not maxing this thing out. I'm not stressing it out more. I could cruise on this highway for the rest of my life. It feels great. I'm impressed. I think this is a great bike. I think the days of these things just being small, crappy, slow bikes, I think they're long gone. And I think that you could get a cool bike like this and you can track it and you can do what anyone else does for a fraction of the cost. And also, here's a big thing, all right? When people ask me, like, I'm looking for a bike for my son, I'm trying to buy him an R1, you know what I mean? I punch him right in their face. Because I'm like, that's a fraction of what you're gonna feel when your son gets hurt or even killed. I don't punch people in the face unless they deserve it. But anytime I'm thinking like, all right, I got kids, I got sons. When they start riding, this is the type of bike I'm gonna get them, because they can, of course, a bike is a responsibility. You get in trouble. On a 600 Super Sport, you're getting 170 miles per hour of trouble. Easily, fast. I mean, you're there so fast. You're there so fast. A bike like this, yeah, you can have a lot of fun. You can get in this trouble. But you're not going to get, you might be getting in 80 miles, 90 miles an hour trouble, 100 miles an hour trouble. That's a whole lot better than 170 mile an hour trouble. That's all I got to say. Alright guys, that wraps it up. Thanks for watching this test drive. This bike is for sale along with like 80 other bikes. We just bought like 40 motorcycles at Srkcycles, and we have a bunch of these cool little entry-level bikes. I love seeing new people ride. And that wraps up the test drive. We'll see you later. If you guys are looking for gloves, check out the M1 Moto gloves. Click on the link below. They are the greatest gloves in the world. No doubt. No doubt. Alright guys, remember, it is not what you're riding, but where you're going, where the destination is, where you are mentally going or physically going. All right, we'll see you later.